Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to be here today and talk about alternate pathways beyond the H-1B lottery. I am here with Josh Blay, who is part of the Deel team and has been leading the charge in our partnership to ensure that we are able to offer cap-exempt H-1B pathways to the Deel community. And we have been around for more than 7 years offering this alternate pathway to the H-1B lottery, and we are thrilled to be able to outline exactly how this works today. So we are going to start off with Josh telling us a little bit more about Deel and how Deel has supported folks with alternate solutions to the H-1B lottery, including the new partnership with the Build Fellowship. And then I will dig into the intricacies of the cap-exempt H-1B pathway and how we navigate the solution of the Build Fellowship.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. And I see that some people are saying the chat feature is not working to introduce themselves. So I just wanted to call that out if Danielle, if you're able to potentially fix that up. But without further ado, yeah, super excited to talk a little bit through Deel and Build and what we're up together. And so, Danielle, again, thank you so much for your introduction, and we're super excited to have this partnership. And so, first off, I just want to call out that there's probably two different personas in this room. So we have employers and individuals, and so we're going to be speaking to both of you when it comes to the options that we have here. And we potentially have attorneys as well, so there's maybe a third persona. So Deel is maybe a little bit of background on Deel. We're kind of an all-in-one platform for HR solutions, so I'll speak to that a little bit more. And my role here at Deel is a global workforce consultant. So I specifically focus on immigration and helping thousands of companies now navigate the immigration process. And so it's no secret that U.S. immigration is complicated, right? If you have access to a keyboard, which I imagine most of you do, unless you've logged in via the AI world, you've Googled an immigration question and you've found a million different answers, and you're trying to figure out, how do I navigate this? And so at Deel and at Build, we're helping people navigate immigration. And where Build really comes into that picture is in this world of H-1B lotteries, where the option that majority of people qualify for is lottery-based. And it's up to chance. There's no way to rig the system, right? You're up to chance, and it's kind of fate that decides whether or not you'll get selected for the H-1B lottery or not. And so I will allow Danielle to really dive into the cap-exempt H-1B offering that exists. The way that we partner with them is that they're able to offer a cap-exempt H-1B, and we're able to offer a concurrent H-1B, which enables you to skip the lottery process and work for a U.S. employer of your choice while doing some really awesome part-time work on the side for NGOs or universities that it makes like a really big impact and you can feel really good about, while also being able to work full time. And so super excited to have this partnership secured. So a little bit about Deel, right? So Deel, again, is this all-in-one HR platform. So we do HR, payroll, services, IT. Within services where immigration sits. And so that's where our partnership has formed with Build. But we also do payroll around the world. And we do things like benefits. We do things like accessing talent or engaging with your employees. So performance reviews and the management of technology and computers across the world. And so if you're looking for a one-stop shop to manage your immigration needs and HR, that's what Deel can offer. And so a couple alternative visa options to the H-1B. Right, so there's this H-1B cap-exempt, which is what we're primarily talking about today. And it is so fantastic because the qualifications to get an H-1B are relatively low. Out of all the US visas out there, it is the lowest, I would say, as far as how do you qualify for the H-1B. You really just need an advanced degree and a job offer, right? And so the problem with it is that lottery system. And if you're here on this call, you've probably been through the lottery or you know about the lottery. And getting a cap-exempt H-1B through an organization like Build, it allows you to start working in the US under an H-1B part-time. And because of that cap-exempt, you can then skip the lottery system when you're filing a concurrent full-time H-1B. So it's a great opportunity to get the H-1B while skipping the lottery initially. And so we're super excited again to partner with Build on that. There are a couple other alternative visa options we just wanted to bring out, but these tend to be for people that are towards the top of their field, and a lot less people qualify for them, right? So there's hundreds of thousands of people each year that apply for the H-1B. And the O-1 visa, which I'm about to talk about, there's about 18,000 that get approved each year. So it's more selective. But there are options I did want to bring up as alternatives that are worth exploring, especially for individuals that are exceptional. So the O-1, it's for people who are either already in the US or abroad, but it's for extraordinary people. There's 8 criteria. You need to meet 3 out of those 8 criteria to qualify. Not everyone meets those criteria, but if you do, for example, you have an internationally or nationally recognized award, maybe you've been featured in press, or you've been a published author of an academic paper in a journal. These are the kind of things that we look for the O-1. There's no degree requirement, so you could potentially be a high school dropout and qualify for this. There's indefinite extensions, and there's no lottery, which means you can process the visa at any time. Another fantastic option is the L1, but this requires that you've worked for a foreign company that also has a US office. And you had to have worked for the foreign company for at least 1 year in the past 3 years. In other words, it's not available for everyone because sometimes a company doesn't have a foreign office, right? Or maybe they're a foreign company, but they don't have a US office. And so how do you go about that conversation? Well, it depends on the setup of your entity. If you have been a manager or an executive, or you have super specialized knowledge and you've worked for, like, let's say a subsidiary in the EU or in India, the L1 could potentially be an option if there is also a US entity. It's great because there's a direct path to green card, and it's one of the only visas in the US that allows your spouse to work upon entry to the United States. There's also green card options. So the green card process, without boring you, is a 2-step process. You have the first step, which is an application to qualify. And the second step is actually filing your green card. That first step doesn't give you any kind of benefits other than qualifying. So you don't get work authorization or the ability to travel to the US. So it can be a pretty lengthy process, which we've highlighted below. However, it is a potential option. And specifically, with the EB-1A and the EB-2 national interest waiver, which are those first steps, you can self-petition or self-sponsor, which means you don't necessarily need a US company to sponsor you or a US entity. And the timelines for these applications tend to be a bit quicker than other green card pathways. That said, I would plan at least on 18 to 24 months. And some countries, like for example in India, it might be 3 to 10 to 15 years if you were born in India. So it's just something to be aware about. It's a potential option to explore, but timelines are really, really long. Whereas, like, if you go through the cap-exempt H-1B, you're qualified for an H-1B right now, you can get started today, right? So it's a much quicker process. At Deel, I do want to highlight that we support immigration around the world in over 70 countries. Now, if you want to relocate to the US, it's because you want to relocate to the US. That's where you want to be, and I don't want to pretend that's not. But there is potentially an option to consider other countries to nearshore in a country like Mexico or Canada, for example. Or perhaps, hey, you've realized that maybe the US is not the right place and you're for you, and you're looking to maybe immigrate to another country with opportunity, like the UAE. At Deel, we can absolutely support you in that move. Deel, we really do pride ourselves on customer experience and customer support. And so we're super excited to have a really robust team fully dedicated to making sure our customers are well taken care of. And that's one of the things that we really care about. We realize that when you're dealing with immigration, you're dealing with a company, but you're also dealing with an individual. And that individual has a life. They have friends. They might have a pet, right? They might have kids that need to attend school this fall. And all those things we keep in mind. And we understand that this is a really personal experience. And so we're here to support you through that move, whether you're an employer supporting an employee or an employee yourself. And one of the things we're really excited to talk about today, or I'm excited to talk about today, is our product. We have a fantastic immigration product that is making it so much easier for HR leaders and immigration leaders to manage their immigration processes across 70 different countries. We have a fantastic case tracker, which lets you know where exactly a case is in the process with live real-time updates and who your point of contact is to reach out to if you have questions. We have an immigration cost calculator. So if you're using 3 different vendors to do immigration across a number of different countries, it can be difficult to manage those costs and understand and report predictively. We have that built into our product. And then we have a great compliance tool which tracks upcoming visa expiration. So you should never be surprised when someone comes to you 2 weeks before the visa expires and you have to figure out where to go from there. And lastly, I do want to highlight that we have an employer of record solution here at Deel as well. And so let's say you want to relocate someone to the US, but you're trying to figure out how to hire them in the meantime. This person is the leading AI engineer in Germany, and you have to have them, right? But you don't have an entity in Germany. Well, Deel can hire them in Germany through our own entity, and then they will work exclusively for you, but we'll handle all the HR in the back end. We'll handle payroll, we'll handle healthcare, and any German-specific compliance regulations, right? And so this is a really great option if you're looking to hire that person that is in a foreign country before they move to the US, because maybe you don't have the budget for the next 6 months or the next 12 months, or you want to put them on a pilot and see how they do for the next 12 months before you relocate them. At Deel, we were able to support that. So with that, I'm super excited to hand it off to Danielle, who's going to really dive into the H-1B cap-exempt program that we're offering alongside Build Fellowship. So I'm super excited for you guys to learn more details about it, because it truly is such an opportunity for individuals that weren't selected, don't know where to go from here, and we're really excited to be part of this kind of mission-driven organization.
Thank you so much, Josh. I am going to start sharing my screen here. Awesome. So as Josh said, we have a really innovative concept here with the cap-exempt H-1B program that we run at the Build Fellowship. And for those who haven't met me or haven't joined one of our webinars that we do monthly, my name is Danielle Goldman. I'm CEO at the Build Fellowship, and I actually started this organization called Open Avenues Foundation, which spun out the Build Fellowship program 7 years ago. So this concept of cap-exempt H-1B fellowship programs and part-time cap-exempt positions is not new. This is something that has been a long time coming and being built with a compliance forward focus, because we know in this immigration landscape, especially today, that compliance is the most important thing, but innovation is also necessary. And we at the Build Fellowship are focused on really meeting at that intersection of immigration, innovation, and focus on compliance. And so, we are 8 years into this, and I'm so excited to present to you with where we are today and what the opportunity is with Deel and the Build Fellowship to connect, because we are creating immigration solutions for the world's top talent. And sometimes, as Josh explained, you just don't fit, or your employees just don't fit into one of these categories, and they've lost the H-1B lottery. And we know, as Josh said, that the H-1B lottery is the most common work visa because of those qualifications that are really just about having a bachelor's degree at least a bachelor's degree, that aligns with the work that an individual is going to be doing with their full-time job, and having an employer-employee relationship and control over employment. The qualifications are standard for any individual who is a foreign national who's going to be employed by a company. But we know that this lottery system annually, which just took place a few weeks ago, is the biggest barrier for companies to be able to retain talent that has been on OPT, and for talent who are applying out of school and have expiring OPT to find jobs and find sponsorship that is going to be successful for them long term when they're coming up against this annual randomized lottery system. So I want to introduce the concept of cap-exempt H-1Bs, because it is not so well known that these cap-exempt H-1Bs are not subject to the lottery, can be filed and approved at any time, and have the same exact qualifications as a regular H-1B, except they're sponsored by 4 types of organizations in the United States. And Congress deemed that these 4 types of organizations, universities, government research institutions, nonprofit research institutions, and nonprofits affiliated with colleges and universities at any time of year could sponsor these H-1Bs for as many employees as needed. And that is because these types of organizations are doing good work to contribute to US society. And this is written right into legislation. This is not under a president's capacity to make change. This cap-exempt H-1B pathway is written into in legislation and was agreed upon by Congress, and for decades has been the case. But what's not so well known is you can actually work just part-time for one of these types of organizations for as a minimum of 5 hours per week. And then you can work for any US employer full-time outside of the lottery system. And so if you're in cap-exempt H-1B status already part-time, then any US employer, we're talking any, your own company, if you're a founder, or an investment firm, or a biotech startup, or a software company, or Google, or Apple, or Tesla, they can sponsor any individual who is in cap-exempt status part-time for a full-time cap-exempt H-1B. And that's because in the US, you can hold, as a foreign national, multiple H-1Bs at the same time. So this is the concept, is concurrent sponsorship, part-time cap-exempt H-1B employment with one of these types of organizations, full-time employment additionally and concurrently with a full-time company in the US. So at the Build Fellowship, we have multiple nonprofits in our network, including Open Avenues Foundation, that are affiliated with colleges and universities around the United States. And that's what makes our organizations cap exempt. The idea that we had 7 years ago was we could run a cap exempt H-1B program that provides part-time positions for top foreign talent to contribute 5 hours a week to colleges and universities and train our future workforce in the United States. And that is what we have done. We've partnered with the colleges and universities that you see here. And we have even more that are in the pipeline. And we actually have our foreign nationals who work in our fellowship program train students from these schools within their field of expertise. So to summarize, what we do at the Build Fellowship is hire foreign talent who work in a variety of fields, really from software development to legal fields to urban planning to marketing and sales. We have fellowships that we create and hire foreign talent for those fellowships for 5 hours per week to work at one of our nonprofit partners. And then once approved for our fellowship and the part-time employment, companies across the country can work, in this case, with Deel to file a concurrent cap-exempt H-1B full-time. So Josh and his team are working with companies who want to really keep individuals full-time and offering this Build Fellowship as the part-time employment that enables this full-time cap-exempt H-1B pathway to exist. So what do fellows do for 5 hours per week when they work in the Build Fellowship? We employ foreign nationals to train students through project-based learning that is field-specific. So in this case, you can see Margarita, she's a civil engineer. She works full-time for a civil engineering firm, and we hired her part-time to lead a project where she actually works as a civil engineer. And her project is something she scoped. It's within her field of expertise. She created the technicalities of how she's going to work with students each week. And this is what all of our fellows do. You can see example projects here from some of our partner organizations. So For Spark Capital, we have a financial analyst fellow who is leading a project to analyze and underwrite a venture investment into a startup. All of our fellows are spending these 5 hours a week and no more working remotely, leading these projects in their own time. And they choose the time of week they want to offer students the projects. And our team at Build facilitates the experience for students and fellows so that everything is done online and we ensure students are having a good experience. We train our fellows to be able to launch these projects successfully. So it is not only an immigration solution where we have a pathway to cap-exempt H-1B sponsorship, but really is a program that trains thousands of students annually and is offering a workforce development solution for this country. And so what we want to talk about now is the timeline and what folks can expect who are coming into our program. So everyone here cares about how quickly you can get a foreign national into cap-exempt H-1B status. And the reality is we start with an evaluation for free. We want to make sure that individuals are qualified for a cap-exempt H-1B, meaning they're qualified for an H-1B, before we take anyone on and contract. And so we take company nominations, we have an evaluation of their eligibility for H-1B, and then we start a 6 to 8 week process of petition development. And that means we scope projects for the 5 hour per week position that an individual will do. It takes us that 8 weeks to get the approval with premium processing. And then about 1 week, one week later, the full-time employer is able to file a concurrent cap-exempt H-1B. So we would be liaising with Deel, who is supporting the employer with full-time cap-exempt H-1B status, so that right when we get an approval on our fellowship program, Deel is able to file a cap-exempt H-1B for a foreign national immediately after. And so following this approval of both petitions, individuals can work immediately after for both organizations. And so I want to be clear that, as I said at the beginning, this is not new to us. And that's really important in today's landscape. We are in a volatile period in immigration. It feels high risk. It feels scary and overwhelming and anxiety inducing. But we've been doing this a long time. And we started this under the first Trump administration. And we know what it takes to put together a compliant program. And the reason it's compliant is because of the core nature of our education programming that our fellows do for 5 hours per week. We've had more than 200 companies across the United States participate in our program and have fellows go through with a 99% success rate. We are seeing an increase in requests for evidence, but we're not seeing an increase in denials. USCIS has audited our foundations for the last 5 years. Every year I personally meet with USCIS and take them through our model and our program, and they have continued to approve and understand that these 5 hours per week are training US students, and we have trained more than 1,000 students in our with our fellowship projects at our 16 colleges and university partners. So we're really excited about the output, and this is truly what I believe is an America First program. If we are helping foreign nationals who are here today to create pathways for them to stay and build companies and also train Americans to be that future workforce, then that is what we can all achieve together through this model. And so we are looking for individuals for the fellowship who have at least that bachelor's degree. You can have a master's, PhD, anything, any degree beyond a bachelor's is good for an H-1B petition. We're looking for at least 2 years of work experience. OPT is typically the experience that we see. It's great if folks have experience mentoring students. And what's really important is to understand that we have a financial commitment that is made from the company that is employing the foreign national. So individuals can't just apply to our program with no entity that is going to hire them full time or support the fellowship financially. So the most common scenario we see is a foreign national has an employer and that employer partners with Deel and the Build Fellowship, or just through our website, you can find the nomination form that a company can fill out. And the financial commitment for a company is $4,000 per month. About $1,000 of that actually pays the foreign national in salary. So that is meant to be reduced from the full-time salary that a company offers. And so the real cost to a company is about $3,000 per month. That includes our cap-exempt H-1B visa, government filing fees, premium processing, the work that we do throughout the year on the program with our education partners. It includes any H-4s, any extensions, any amendments, ongoing immigration guidance through our team. And it truly is a comprehensive flat rate. This was changed from our past when we had multiple different fees, and we really tried to simplify this for our company partners. The only other way to pay for this program, we have a lot of folks who have been laid off, who are coming to us and seeking a path to be able to build their own company or stay, or maybe they have a company that just doesn't want to sign this agreement, but they are willing to engage through this model. And there is a way to have another entity actually support the Build Fellowship. We call it a benefactor. So if someone has a company that they've started themselves, or has a company that is willing to pay for their fellowship, that is another way to do this, but it can never be an individual. I want to note that the fellowship is not just about the visa solution itself, but our fellows, this is Felix. He actually is a founder of Orb Labs. So I want to make it clear that this does work for founders, but we have most of our fellows are mid to senior level executives within their company. He just wasn't qualified for the O1. It was actually denied, and he went through this path with us to get the cap-exempt H-1B. And all of our fellows, if you ask them, will say that it's been an amazing experience for professional development to be able to help prepare students for careers. So it is a very well-rounded program. There's a lot that goes into actually facilitating all of this and making sure that we are compliant with immigration law. And I'm sure a lot of questions today will be about compliance and how this program is received by a Trump administration. But we're really excited that we can continue to offer this and be able to really scale up the number of fellowships in our new model, especially with Deel by our side as a partner. So I want to bring Josh back on here, and we see there's questions in the Q&A, and participants, I believe, can also raise hands, and we can call on them as well if you want to come on and ask a question live. But I will start.
Yeah, I was looking at all the questions, and so I have a few.
Cool.
What's so funny, Danielle, is that I talked to Felix about an O1. He didn't qualify, and he
No
met
way.
you guys, and like you were able to provide a solution for him to
Wild.
build a company, which is so cool. And so there's actually quite a few questions about like VC and angel funding, and like how do I build my startup on a cap exempt H-1B. And so I can speak to this, but I'm really interested also in your and like in how you see it. So, one of the primary visas we support at Deel is the O1, and we actually like built our U.S. immigration program supporting founders on O1 visas. And so if you're qualified for an O1, it's fantastic, right? The problem is that so many people don't qualify in that early stage, and it's like, what do you do? And so, that's where you can potentially hold a concurrent H-1B if you already have one with your current employer if you already have an H-1B. But I imagine most people here don't have that H-1B, and that's where, Danielle, I'll hand it over to you to explain a little bit about maybe a little bit more about what Felix's situation looked like.
Totally. It is totally possible for a founder to get an H-1B in the United States. And that has always been something that is is unknown. I think a lot of founders believe their only path is in O1 or an EB1, and those are great options if you qualify. But for some people, they do an evaluation for an O1 with an immigration attorney, and the attorney says you have a 50% chance of getting approved or a 60% chance of getting approved. And if that is the case, then maybe a founder should consider doing an H-1B visa because they will qualify most likely for that H-1B even with their own company. A rule was published on January 17th this year under the Biden administration that actually makes it easier for founders to sponsor themselves for a H-1B, and it says that they don't have to actually own less than 50% of the company to get the H-1B approval. That's a big deal because formerly folks thought maybe they had to own less than 50% of the company to get the H-1B approved. It's not the case. And that's not going to be reversed for quite some time. So if you're a founder here today on this call and you want to go down the H-1B route, you totally can. And it is potentially de-risked given the fact that you look at a 50% chance on an O1 or we have a 99% success rate on our cap-exempt H-1Bs. Perhaps this is a pathway that you explore. So totally possible for founders to do part-time in the fellowship and then full-time for their own company.
And Danielle, let's say this is your last year in the H-1B lottery. And your
Yeah.
OPT is expiring this summer. Like when do you get started?
Yeah. ASAP. Our most This is our busiest lottery. Folks who say we have a July expiration of OPT, which is also the most common time of year to have OPT end. And so we have, now is the time to really start our program. And many people will be pitching companies about the solution right now. I hope that you can start to bring the solution to your employer. If you're a foreign national, if you're an employer, please reach out to us immediately. If you have an expiration for an employee in July or June, because we would want to get rolling as soon as we can.
There was another question about like what entirely is included in that 4K fee? Is it all like the one-time fees, the government fees, or like are the government fees invoiced separately?
Yeah, everything is included in that 4,000 except the full-time visa that you would be filing with Deel, or for the full-time employer, right? So in a case where, let's use an example of Amazon. Let's say, someone's working for Amazon full-time, we would be filing that H-1B. The $4,000 for the fellowship monthly includes everything from our end, but Amazon would still have to pay for its own full-time cap-exempt H-1B on top of ours.
So, and what happens if there's an RFE? Someone had a question about that.
Yeah. So requests for evidence really do just lengthen timelines. And that is why it is so important, especially in today's environment, to start as soon as possible. I used to say start 4 months before, ideally, maybe 3, and we could potentially help you in 2. But today's rates, that doesn't mean that this program doesn't work. It doesn't mean that there's going to be a denial at the end of it. But there is a lot there's a lot more scrutiny right now. And that means more requests for evidence are possible. It means that our lawyers are taking a little bit more time and being extra thorough on the applications. And that means I'd love folks to start coming to us 6 months before their OPT expires or before they need to, start in H-1B status. So come to us as soon as possible and start this program.
Yeah, I always tell people that time is control in immigration, right? So like the more time you have,
Yes.
the more control you have. We're dealing with governments here.
Love.
And there's some unpredictable nature to it, right? Like we send off an application and vast majority of time no RFE, but sometimes you get one and you just can't predict it. So yeah, always take advantage of time. Um, so I guess to the HR leaders that are here today, like this is such a great option, and we're so excited to be able to support it with Build, for you to be able to continue to access the world's best talent in the United States. And so, yeah, if you guys have any questions, I have shared a few times, if you go to the Q&A, a link for our partnership where you can sign up for a potential consultation. I also just shared my email there as well, so you can feel free to reach out to me, and Danielle, I'm sure you'll have your email. And then for those individuals that are coming in here, they haven't talked to their employer yet, and they're trying to figure out this whole immigration thing, like how do I stay in the U.S.? I have built community here. This is where I want to be. I went to university here. I have an apartment here. I have a dog. Like Danielle, how would you advise them to really approach that conversation?
with their employers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with their employers potentially.
Yeah, it's so important that folks bring this to their employers in a methodical way. And a lot of what I do is prepare foreign nationals to go have those conversations. And number one, what is really important is not framing this like a loophole or something that is an experimental. I saw someone asked a question about this being experimental, right? This is an established fellowship program with colleges and universities across the United States. And these are legitimate schools. You're looking at Vanderbilt, Ohio State, George Washington University. This should be framed to an employer as a fellowship opportunity that is professional development, that also offers a visa pathway for you to be able to stay and work for the company. Number one, create the legitimacy for your company by leading with the professional development fellowship. Number two, have a clear understanding that is a this is built into the legislation, that if you're going to try to explain the visa pathway, that this is legislation, and that concurrent employment with cap-exempt H-1Bs has happened for a long time. This is not new. And number three, try to get your company on the phone with our team or the Deel team as soon as possible. Because rather than you try to explain what's included in the monthly fee and how this works, let us do that. Because what's really included is not just this visa solution, but it's also the workforce development training and pipeline development for a company as they train future workforce. And we want to be able to get on the phone with your company and have that conversation. So the most success I've seen for foreign nationals is the quicker they can get a call scheduled between HR or the C-suite and our team. Josh, I saw a question asking you to explain a little bit more about the EOR model
Yep.
and how that fits into this in general, if an EOR can exist with a concurrent visa sponsorship.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little bit of like background on again what we do at Deel. So we support immigration through your own entity. So if you have a U.S. entity and you need to support a visa, like that's our bread and butter, and we do that all the time. But we also can support individuals who are hired via EOR, and that's what separates us from all the other immigration providers out there. And so EOR is just Deel's way of hiring an employee in a country where you don't have an entity. So if you didn't have an entity in the US, for example, and you wanted to relocate someone to the US, you didn't want to set up that entity, and they didn't qualify for another visa option like the O1 or L1, we could leverage, and they didn't get it selected in the lottery, right? We could leverage Deel's EOR and standalone visa support plus Build Fellowship's cap-exempt H-1B support to make that happen. So it really is a really cool way to open up immigration to the United States in a really flexible way, that's fully compliant, and at the same time you kind of get to get back like what Danielle was sharing through that cap exempt program. And so that's how our EOR model works. We also support people on EOR that aren't needing visa support, right? So if you wanted to hire a U.S. citizen but didn't have an entity in the U.S., like we can support that, or you wanted to hire someone in India or Hong Kong, or pretty much anywhere, like at least we support it in over 100 and I think 30 countries. So pretty much anywhere you would want to hire, we support it. And so that's something we could also support with as well.
And if a foreign national needs an employer of record in the United States, they have they can have Deel be that employer of record, and Deel will sponsor the cap exempt H-1B concurrently for that individual.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly. So in our partnership with Build, right? So if you didn't have, you needed that EOR provider in the US, you needed that visa support, we would also be able to leverage Build Fellowship for that cap exempt, so that you didn't, if you weren't selected in the lottery, or you couldn't go through the lottery, or it was like a really quick move, you didn't have time to wait, and you didn't qualify for another visa option. This is an option that's available.
Awesome. Awesome. I see someone that's having trouble scheduling a call with the Build team. So please make sure you can reach out to me directly, and we'll make sure that someone is able to speak to you. This is our busiest time of year, so we are totally booked out through the week with some of our sales team, but I will make sure that I can personally meet with anyone who's having any trouble. So my email is Danielle@buildfellowship.com. You can feel free to reach out to me, and we'll make sure you get things that they're just posted, so you can make sure that we get you in. We understand that timelines are tight right now for a lot of folks, and we want to make sure you can chat about the program. Cool. I think we covered almost everything. I hope we were successful in answering your questions, and Josh and I are here. We shared our information. This is not the last time we'll be getting together to talk about this solution, and we're really excited to continue to grow this partnership together and see how many folks we can support, and the good that all these fellows will do for the United States as we continue to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks again, Danielle, and for this wonderful partnership we have. I saw again, some people are nervous about, like, hey, I need to get this meeting booked as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And so again, just email Danielle, email me, and
Yeah.
we will move some things around to make sure that you get supported. So again, thank you so much
Okay.
for your time. Immigration is not a fun conversation, and everyone here took some time to be with us today. And so
Yeah.
just appreciate you for coming out and being engaging. Not all webinars are engaging, so wonderful group of people, and excited to support you in the future.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.
Bye.